ThePrimeagen or The Prime Time is one of the most popular coding YouTubers out there. I started following him like a year ago and I enjoy his content a lot. And he also has a lot of hot takes. Honestly, he helped me solidify my coding knowledge. I had a lot of topics where I had some opinions, but they weren't fully formed, they were not concrete. I couldn't verbally say why I like something or dislike something. And after watching a lot of Primeagen videos, well, now I have more concrete ideas, and in this video I want to share 5 things I learned from him. Dogmatic rules like clean code are pretty stupid. Like in my current job, we use a lot of coding standard tools. We code in PHP, we have PHP stan, PHP mess detector, code styling, etc. We also use JavaScript and we have the linters, etc. But this is more of me from backend talking that, for example, mess detector. It has a lot of very strict rules, and in our company, basically, these tools are God of what the tool says. It means that your code is wrong, even though there are multiple times when you feel it that this suggestion to fix this error or something issue with your code leads to pretty bad code that's much harder to read, much harder to understand, but you're just fixing a box. And for some reason in our company we believe that the creators of these tools have all the answers to all the coding problems, and there's only one single way how to code stuff, how to make it better. And it's definitely not it. Primeagen makes fun a lot about the clean code. What is clean code? He talks a lot about that code that you're familiar with is always clean to you because you understand it, you read it, you understand what it does, and it becomes kind of clean to you. So also I watched an interview from Lara Cast developer, the main voice. I'm blanking on his name, but basically he did an interview and he talked about PHP stan. In our company we use the max level PHP stan, meaning that it finds the most amount of problems and it has the strictest rules out there. And the Laravel, Laracast developer, basically he does not use the highest level of PHP stan. I think he uses level 5 out of 7. Don't quote me on that, but basically he also admits that some of these rules are way too strict and it leads to poor code design decisions. So yeah, being dogmatic with your rules is not a good idea. Inheritance is not as great as OOP guys make it sound. So in our company, again, we had a guy that would take any single task and he would make some kind of inheritance in our project. Basically, you need a command to run some SQL. He would run and create a whole inheritance layer for creating commands. And now this is how we create commands from this inheritance, from this process, etc. And he created a lot of inheritances and I was like, is it the next level of programming or is this stupid? Before that, we would use inheritance in very rare occasions when you have a lot of code duplication and you know that this would save time. Basically, when you have very similar objects, maybe you have one object and there's different categories of the same object, and a lot of methods are the same, etc. You then use inheritance, and that solves a lot of duplication and saves a lot of coding and makes everything much easier. But doing inheritance every single way in every single piece of code that you touch is kind of bad in my opinion, and there's very little use cases according to ThePrimeagen for inheritance where it really makes sense, because when you create this huge inheritance layer and you think you got it, you then get new requirements from the business, you need to change it, and it's a pain in the ass to fix it. We have a whole project that's full on inheritance mode, and people in our team are reluctant to take tasks in that project because it's a huge pain in the ass to basically prepare your mind, digest all the code, all these inheritances, and it's all these complexities, even though it should eliminate the complexities, because of inheritance you hide a lot of stuff in different layers, but usually you need everything. You need to find the whole scope and fix problems, and it really makes it pretty hard. So before watching ThePrimeagen, I wasn't a huge fan of inheritance, but I was thinking maybe it's me, maybe I'm not smart enough for inheritance, for creating these sophisticated inheritances, traits, abstract classes, extensions, and all that stuff, that maybe I'm just not seeing it in every single piece of code that, this could be an inheritance. Maybe it was me, but now I think that maybe inheritance is mostly used in specific cases like we used to do. Next one. AI is not here yet to steal my job. Maybe this might not age well, because like a month ago I started using AI much more in my job. Before that, every single time I tried to do coding and rely a little bit more on AI, I was creating just garbage, and I had to throw it out and just write it all myself. Now in a month or two, it started to get better for PHP. It was pretty good for JavaScript before, because there was much more code, but it started getting better for PHP, so much so that I started using AI like a coworker that I would like work together with, like ask questions, not bother my real coworkers, but ask questions to the AI models, and surprisingly they started generating some really good code. That said, according to ThePrimeagen, AI is still not there yet, and yeah, you cannot put your task and hope that the AI will just cover it and know all the nuances of your code base. If you are doing bigger changes, it starts losing context, it creates different hallucinations, etc., and it's not reliable. Can that change in a year or two? Maybe, but will that be enough to replace my job? Still probably not, as on one of ThePrimeagen's podcasts, the stand-up, there was a very good saying, basically, that we are in an age where we can get all the woodworking tools that we need, and they are very good, and we could all be woodworkers and create all these benches, tables, etc., because we all have the tools and we all have the knowledge on YouTube. We could watch YouTube for hours, learn how to do woodworking, and we could be all woodworkers. The same goes with AI. Basically, it's just a tool to do coding, but that doesn't mean that every single person is going to become a software developer and that it relates to every single person. There's plenty of different professions that have no idea why would they want to use AI, why would they want to now become a software developer. And yeah, and the craft of software developing, I think it will continue, because you still need to know what to ask the AI. You need to know how to find the bugs, to have the context of asking the right questions. Even if in a year or two AI would become a monstrous like intelligence and start doing crazy stuff, I guess then you would not need any of that context knowledge. Maybe then we are screwed, but is it likely? I guess not. And ThePrimeagen talks about AI a lot, that it's still not there yet. And there was a lot of talking about AI the year before that, the year before that, the year before that, that it's already coming, it's already coming, it's already coming, and it's not there yet. So, yeah, hopefully this will not age badly. So, the next thing that I learned is that things aren't as complicated as you might think. ThePrimeagen, in his videos, he talks a lot about the craft, how he likes coding, and how he likes to dive deep into technologies. And when you do these deep dives, you learn a lot more about the tech. You learn how it's done, what are the limitations, etc. And when you start diving deeper, you get a broader understanding, and then you realize that it's not as complicated as it might seem before you did that. And basically, I kinda had internalized it more after watching ThePrimeagen's videos, that it's good to actually deep dive into technologies to learn more. It amazes me how he remembers different algorithms that I learned in university and then forgot after my first interviews, like the Dijkstra algorithm, sorting algorithms, etc. And he puts it in a way that, yeah, it's maybe a good idea to understand them, keep them in mind, and when you keep them in mind, you actually start realizing that it's not that complicated. And I guess ThePrimeagen for me showed that he's not that super duper genius that finished the university at the age of 20 or something and got PhDs, etc. That, well, software development is done by basically regular people, and still it's not that complicated and you can do it. And yeah, I guess it gave me a confidence boost. So probably this one is a little vague of an argument, but this is like a few points in a single one. And the last one that we want to talk about is that having 100% test coverage is stupid. Having 0 is also stupid. I remember this idea from him that writing tests is kind of an art. You need to know what tests to write, and basically I had this funny feeling about tests that when you mock everything and basically you just get a result from, let's say, an API, you do a request and you have mocked the database, you have mocked all the external services, everything is basically mocked, and you get a response and you get a green light, everything is a success. To me, and also to ThePrimeagen, these tests don't seem that they add a lot to your code. And if you have a lot of these tests, there's everything mocked. If you change anything in the code, you then need to change everything in the tests. And what have we accomplished from this? I guess not much. So in our company, we did not write a lot of tests at the beginning of our project. And I was kind of okay with that. And then a new phase for the company started where we want to have more reliability. How do we achieve that? Tests. We need more tests. But I guess there is a very fine line of how many tests you need. What tests are not adding anything and they're actually making you slower, because when you need to change something, you need to change the test as well. And yeah, that fine line, I guess, is an art. Though in my personal work experience, that fine line, I think, is closer to that 100% that we want to write every single test. Everything needs to be covered, though we are far from it. But the main trend is looking like that. And I'm not a huge fan of that. I would rather write a real test that has some good input data, that tests the edge cases of the program and is not testing like basic stuff that you can see from the code, and that you know that will never break unless you will have like a dependency update and everything changes. But then again, you will be expecting that. So this is what I learned from ThePrimeagen. Probably I learned a lot more, but it's hard to crystallize them into these concrete points. He had a lot of guests on his show that I learned a lot about from them as well. I don't want to butcher his name, so I think it's Steve Moratori. I think I might do a separate video on him, because there were several good things that I learned from him that were quite surprising and broadened my understanding of coding as well. So that might be a separate video. So yeah, definitely give a follow to ThePrimeagen and to me if you enjoyed this content. See ya and goodbye.